Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me for another Alfred Hitchcock Presents review. Today I will be reviewing Season 4, Episode 35, Touche, starring Paul Douglas, Hugh Marlowe, and Robert Morse. And in my opinion, Touche was a very average episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents. I didn't think it was great, but I didn't think it was really bad either. It was just kind of there for me. The episode does start out pretty amusing with Alfred Hitchcock using a sword to carve out his initials, which is definitely a theme of the episode, meaning swords. So we start with our main character, Bill Fleming, and he meets up with a guy named Phil. It turns out they just met a few days ago. And they're in this place, drinking, talking. And it turns out Fleming's been bringing up his wife and how she's always having relations with other men. But there's this one guy specifically that's really annoying him named Baxter for the fact that they used to be friends. And we also learn that Fleming used to be a fighter, so he doesn't want to use his fists to solve this for fear of getting in trouble. So this other gentleman named Phil says, I know some stuff about the law, and he explains, after seeing some swords on the wall, that if you start a duel and you have an equal chance and you get rid of this guy, you won't get in trouble. There's a special law with dueling or something. I guess you just have to go with it. It's kind of interesting. So this starts out as kind of just a hypothetical situation, but then Baxter really starts thinking that this might work, as this other gentleman, Phil, seems to know what he's talking about. Now, this scene was okay. It was a decent setup, but I did think it went on far too long. This took almost half the episode, and I thought it could have been done in half the time. But it was okay, I guess. So then we go back to Bill's place. He goes home, and his wife is there with Baxter. And it seems like they're kind of just hanging out. This makes Baxter angry. So eventually he starts baiting Bill, that is. He starts baiting this guy Baxter. He knocks his drink out of his hand with a sword, and then he starts like jabbing at him. So, not enough to really do him in, but enough to basically bait him. So eventually this Baxter, with no choice, starts trying to defend himself. We actually get like a little bit of a sword fight in the middle of this episode of Duel. The sword fighting wasn't very good in my opinion, but it's interesting to see this attempted on Alfred Hitchcock Presents. It was okay. So eventually, Bill stabs Baxter, and Baxter's a goner. He also kind of just shoves his wife aside. So that takes care of that. So we go to the next scene, and Bill reports this to the police, probably knowing he's not really going to get in trouble because he believes what this Phil says. So then we very abruptly go to another scene in court. All of a sudden, the pace of this episode is definitely picked up. I definitely thought the pacing was uneven. So he's telling his story in court, and everything seems to be going okay. He makes sure to emphasize that this was a fair fight. So in the next scene, we go into basically the judge's quarters, and he's explaining everything. And it looks like Bill can get off for this, except there's another provision he didn't know about, where because he's the one that did the killing, he has to provide for any of Baxter's remaining relatives, basically. Well, it turns out Baxter doesn't have a wife, but he does have a son, so it seems like a lot of money, but Bill finally agrees to what he has to pay this gentleman. He's going to get money like every month or something, plus some money up front. But Bill says it's well worth it. I'm free of this Baxter guy forever, and I'll pay the money. So now Bill goes back home in our final scene, and his wife Laura's there again. It looks like she's already moved on to someone new, and I predicted this twist as soon as I heard about the provisions that Bill was going to have to pay. It turns out Phil, the guy from the beginning of the episode who suggested all this, was Baxter's son, and I guess he just kind of plotted this whole thing to get the money and to be with Laura and things like that. And he tells Bill, I'm going to be seeing you for a long time. Can I call you Dad? So the twist was okay. Like, I thought it was an average twist. This whole episode's just kind of average. The pacing's kind of all over the place. I thought it took a while to get going. But it is entertaining, and the twist does fit the episode. So, just an average episode for me. And I'm going to give Touche a 2.5 out of 5. As always, thanks for your support, and thanks for watching.